So, welcome, Michelle, to the Authentic and Brave podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited that you agreed to do this.
Yeah, it was so nice to see you the other day.
I know, I know. So, we've known each other, oh my gosh, maybe
Since
5 years we
2019.
met. Was it like 4 or 5 years ago we met,
Yeah,
maybe?
it was May of 2019.
2000. Okay. So, before the pandemic. And you and I went on a retreat together. I talked about the retreat a little bit in an earlier podcast, but yeah, we didn't know each other and both went to, well, Camp Loon. And that has a special meaning for you, right?
Yes, Camp Loon was actually my camp growing up. It was my camp, my family's camp. And then Jeff and Gina, who now do the retreats, bought the camp from my father.
Mhm. And so you had gone back to be part of the retreat, but also
She actually asked me to, Gina was like, "Do you want to come be a part of this retreat with me?" And I felt so honored. She actually had me come for free because she just
oh,
wanted to honor me, and, like, it was her first retreat at Camp Loon,
mhm.
and she's like, "I know that this was a special place for you." Like, I actually didn't know Gina at that point. I was like, "Who's this lady? She's so kind."
Yes,
Um,
uh-huh.
so I ended up going, and the funny part is I remember I drank too much almost every night, drank too much wine. I was just in a place of my life where I was not well, which is
Mm,
ironic
mhm.
because now my business is otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for those I did a little intro, but for those that don't know, tell us what your business is.
So I have a business. My LLC is Michelle is well,
Mhm.
because when you type it in a URL, I didn't want my company name to be Michelle Swell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have like a product business where I sell medicinal herbal teas, and they all have a healing purpose called Michelle's Well. And I want it to be a resource for people, but it just doesn't look very pretty when you type it out in a URL. So my Instagram name is Michelle is well.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of, well, it all birthed because of Instagram.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you are kicking it on Instagram. You have like 20,000 followers?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Well, you're doing something right.
I guess I'm a people person, which is nice.
Yeah.
I
So
love people.
I know you do. Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about, kind of your journey. Like how did you end up doing a product-based business and having such an incredible following?
Sure. Well, I guess it started. So yeah, 2019, I had just broken up with the guy I was in a relationship with for a year. And when I met you, it literally had just happened. And I just was like not in a good place. I was drinking a lot of booze. And then I believe it was July of 2019, I don't know what got into my head. Like, I literally, out of nowhere, I was like, I'm going to run a half marathon. And
Oh.
so I just started training for it July of 2019. It was like, yeah, like 2 months after I met you. And so that just kind of put me in a different headspace, even though I was still drinking.
Hmm.
I was like, I have this goal. I'm going to like reach this goal. And I remember there was one week in August of 2019 where I thought to myself, I'm going to go a whole week without drinking booze.
Hmm.
Like, I wasn't an addict. I wasn't, it wasn't weird or anything like that. I wouldn't drink in the morning. I didn't have to drink every day, but I was so lonely
Mm.
and so purposeless that I didn't have any hope. So I would go across the street to the bar, and like, which is very inconvenient if you're trying not to drink,
Hmm.
to have friends, who buy you drinks across the bar from where you live. I just remember thinking to myself, like, I'm going to go a whole week without booze. And like, just to give you a reference of like how often I drank, and a week going without it was, a big deal to me. So
Hmm.
I ran the half marathon in November of 2019, and I like still cry to this day thinking about it, because I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like, because it's just not in my DNA. I'm not a go-getter. I'm not like a overachiever. I'm not type A. I'm like as relaxed as they come when it comes to like life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I do have things that I'm not relaxed about when it comes to like justice oriented kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
I mean, like the day to day, like my dishes are, I don't mind if the dishes are in the sink overnight. I don't mind if there's clutter around me. Like, I'm just not this put together person who runs half marathons.
Yeah, I was gonna say a half
Um,
marathon is no small feat.
right. So then in the next year, actually, it was New Year's Eve, I felt this prompting in my heart from the Lord. I'm a believer.
Hmm.
And I felt this prompting from the Holy Spirit to not drink booze the entire year of 2020. And I was like, I can do that. Like, I went a whole week in August.
Yep.
I can I can do a whole year.
Hmm.
So I just was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on being really well in
Hmm.
2020. And so I started eating really well and like working out, and everything was just like really on point. 2020 was about to be a great year.
Little did
Um
you know.
and then yeah, as we all know, it was
Yep.
not. But I still to this day like cannot imagine what my life would look like now if I hadn't listened to the Holy Spirit and stopped drinking New
Hmm.
Year's Eve of 2020, because I would have been drinking alone in my apartment like during quarantine, and like
Hmm.
just continued that hopeless feeling. But then something totally birthed inside of me that I had zero idea until 2020, like that was inside of me that was important to me, which was bodily autonomy, which I had
Hmm.
never I mean, nobody ever told you what to do with your body before, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I had a conviction in my heart, and I made a promise to myself to never wear a mask. And
Okay.
so I didn't go inside a grocery store for 14 months.
Wow. Wow.
I just ordered online
Hmm.
and went out to the Amish. I live near Lancaster, Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
and they continued life as normal out
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And so I grocery shopped out there, and then I befriended them out there and learned about plants and had this beautiful backyard garden. So I would just go grocery shopping in my backyard garden.
Hmm.
And it just became, and everybody was like, Michelle, why don't you just wear the damn mask? Like, it's just a mask. I'm actually really claustrophobic too. And I have PTSD from an event that happened in my life in the past.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
regardless, I just felt like people didn't need to know that,
Yeah.
like
Right. It
if,
was you got to make your choices. Hmm.
yes, exactly.
Hmm.
And I understand, I understood people didn't want to be around me if I wasn't or whatever. So I just stayed clear of people for 14 months.
Hmm.
But having that resolve in my heart to really stay true to myself
Hmm.
was, I think, the first time in my life that I really chose myself,
Hmm.
like I'm going to keep this conviction. And then because of that, so fast forward to August of 2021, my nanny job came to a close. And we had known that, when I signed up
Hmm.
to be her nanny, her kid was going to preschool, and
Yeah.
I'd been his nanny for 4 years. And it was a beautiful time in my life to be a nanny. But I just was like, I'm going to start my own business. So I took like a business course in July of 2021
Okay.
and had no idea what I wanted my business to be. I just was like,
Yep.
I want people to be well. I don't know what that looks like.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I'll be a coach. And then I thought maybe I'll be a nutritional therapist.
Hmm.
And that's the other thing that got birthed inside of me along that same time, was because of COVID and because of, knowing people who are getting it, knowing people who are dying from it. I'm like, oh my God, I need to save these people.
Hmm.
And so I started researching, and something got lit inside of me about herbs.
Hmm.
And so, like, I heard about rosemary and orange peels and cloves and all these things that were really good for your lungs. So I started putting everything together in a pot and making these decoctions,
Uh-huh.
like a witch brewing her potion, and started giving them the tea,
Hmm.
basically, is what it was, to
Okay.
people who had COVID. So I would go leave it on their doorstep, and like try to help as many people as I could who had COVID
Hmm.
using these herbs.
Okay.
And then I had a dream in April of 2020. And when this sounds weird, but when I woke up from the dream, like that dream state where you're like in the middle of like waking up,
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yep.
I heard a voice say, "You're going to own an herbal business."
Wow.
And
Okay.
I woke up and I was like, what's an herbal business?
You're like, but that's not what I was planning. What are you talking about?
No, and I didn't even know that there was things such as dried herbs because I
Uh-huh.
had been using all fresh stuff from my backyard garden
Mm.
and from my kitchen. I was using kitchen medicine.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that people had dried herbs and that different herbs had different like properties like for
Mhm.
healing. So literally I told the woman I nannied for about it and that was it. Like I forgot about the dream.
Okay.
So, fast forward to the business course in July of 2021. My nanny job ends in August 2021. And then I kind of like floundered a little bit. I started these things called wellness weeks where Gina, who started the retreat, actually helped me with my website and started doing these like week long kind of challenges with people where I would have them do like 7 habits for 7 days and like
Mhm.
we would eat all organic together and eat no vegetable oils, no refined sugar. We would move our bodies every day. We get sunlight on our eyes, like
Mhm.
just everything that I knew how to be well. I just like wanted to help people be well
Yeah.
and give them those tools, to like incorporate into their own lives. So that was fun and I loved doing it, but it didn't light a fire under me, you
Okay.
know, like
Mhm.
the way that I
Yep.
thought it was going to. So at the same time, I started picking up pace on my Instagram account in 2021. And like I think it was like April of 2021, I renamed my account to Michelle as well
Mhm.
instead of Michelle Bibbins and just kind of started thinking more big picture, like maybe this is going somewhere. Like I just
Mhm.
kind of had a feeling like maybe I'll have more followers than I anticipated.
Yeah. Just to kind of recap. So you were a nanny
Yeah.
and you didn't have a background in, food or
Oh
herbal
no, not at
medicine.
all.
It really came to you over time, in part because of a need that you saw
Yes.
and a product that you created basically for yourself and for those that you love to feel better.
Right.
And over time, through trial and error, it wasn't like, just you just made a decision and that was it. It sounds like there was, some trial and error and working with other people and learning, a lot of learning. And then that dream, that part of your heart that just spoke to you and still took some time then to flourish and to develop, but
Right.
really tuned into kind of what you felt your calling was telling you.
Right, exactly. I didn't even know what my calling was telling me to do until I was in my calling.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes how it happens. Yep.
But yeah,
Mhm.
so towards the end of it was November of 2021, still doing the wellness weeks, but I was telling people about this herbal medicine that I was using, that I was drinking.
Mhm.
And then I bought bulk herbs. Like by that point, I was like, okay, I can buy these, like I can buy orange peels that are dried. I can buy a big pound of cloves, like
Mhm.
I can buy these things in bulk. And I started handing them out, like making like Christmas presents and stuff. And people on my Instagram were like, "Can I have some of that?
Yeah.
Can I have it?" And I
Uh-huh.
was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "We'll buy it from you." And I was like,
Mm. Oh,
"Oh, okay. I don't know what that looks like." Like, so I literally put things inside of a bag without a label, which is so
uh-huh.
illegal. Like, had no idea what I was doing. I like wrote out a paper for them, like, these are the ingredients and this is what you do. I don't know.
Mhm.
And
So, yeah, you were sharing some of your knowledge at that point.
right. And
Yeah.
people like on my stories on Instagram. And so I just announced it. I was like, I have 10 bags of, this blend if you want it that helps with, COVID. It helps like boost your immune system. And it's like a natural antibiotic, a natural antiviral, helps your lungs. And I have 10 bags. And then 50 people were banging down my door, like, I'll have one. And I'm like, but I don't have 50. And so that's
Uh-huh.
literally how Michelle's Well started, was just from that need and from the demand. And so I got my LLC at the end of that year or beginning of 2022
Mhm.
and like officially started. Just like I said, it was literally from demand. People just kept coming back, like, okay, well, do you have anything for gut healing? And I'm like, no, but I'll have it by Friday.
You're like, "But give me a little bit of time. I will
Right.
I will figure it out."
And I didn't
Mhm.
know, I've never been to herbal school. I've never even taken an herbal class before. I like herbalism class, I just learned out of necessity and out of people being like, well, do you have anything for allergies? I'm like, well, let me look at the root cause. Let me see what
Mhm.
herbs help. Nettles helps with allergies. Vitamin C, boosting your vitamin C helps with allergies, cleansing your liver, and doing cross references too, like learning from other herbalists. What are they using for allergies? And like just looking into like what herbs do for which ailment, you know?
Mhm. Yep.
And it just like that's what lights me on fire is the fact that like we have access to all these herbs on
Mhm.
the earth that is quite literally free medicine to be well. So I started going out to the Amish who had
Mhm.
accepted me, you know, when the rest of the world had not accepted me, and started learning from them. And they taught me about herbs, and I bought my bulk herbs from them. And I still do to this day. So I drive out an hour and a half to go visit them every week.
Mhm.
And they sell me their herbs from it's called Meadowview Herb Shop. They have like this like farm, you know,
Mhm.
where they have this tiny shack on their farm with
Yeah.
herbs.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, and so you're small at this point. I mean, you're a one woman shop.
One woman show.
One woman, yeah, online, but connecting as well as, I hear like connecting with the Amish and other people who share similar beliefs in terms of growing and learning and using herbs and food for wellness,
Right, right.
which is, a big part of your mission and your belief system. And it sounds like, I mean, again, it wasn't something that was planned, but the demand was there. People were asking for it. And how many teas do you have now?
I have 21 blends.
21. Wow. And just a couple of them, like what are a couple of the more popular ones that you have?
Womb wellness is, I think, by
Mhm.
far the most popular one. It's not just for your womb. It's so nourishing and
Mhm.
remineralizing that it's just so beneficial. I mean, even men could drink it, you know?
Mhm.
Doesn't mess with your hormones. It's just so like the nettles in it has so many bioavailable nutrients like iron, for instance. I
Mhm.
really recommend people. So I do this thing with my followers where I teach them how to do, and that's the other thing is like I like to educate them along with the herbs. So it's just don't want to just sell a product. I want to educate them on what these herbs are doing for them, how to use the herbs.
Mhm.
And I try to make it an enjoyable experience to follow me
Yeah.
on Instagram. We've
Yep.
created quite a community of really beautiful souls. I attract really, really beautiful people and hardly ever have like any negative feedback or negative, you know, comments. I do from time to time, and I'm always shocked because I'm so used to like
The
really good
goodness.
people. I'm like, what are you doing here? Get out of here.
You just ignore those, push those
Right.
away.
But yes, I do this thing with them called long infusion. The womb wellness is great for that because what it is you put some herbs in a mason jar and then you pour boiling water over it and
Mhm.
then you cover it with the lid, leave it on your countertop overnight until all of the constituents of the plant have been pulled out. So when you do this, it pulls the constituents of the plant out by 500% more than just like a 10-minute infusion.
Okay.
So you're literally drinking medicine, you know?
Wow.
So it's like just full of all the water has just been infused with all of those, you know,
Mhm.
bioavailable nutrients. And so I tell people to do this long infusion with a womb wellness a week before your period.
Mhm.
And like if you ever find yourself dizzy during your period or whatever, you're low on iron because you're losing your blood.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just different things like that. The womb wellness is really popular. The total organ restore literally works like for every organ. It has ginkgo biloba, which helps with your brain, has hawthorn berry, which helps with cardiovascular system.
Mm.
It has marshmallow root, which helps your gut. It has parsley and cleavers, which helps your kidneys and helps. It's actually like a natural diuretic. And you like shed water weight when you drink parsley, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling really bloated, like that's something that you would want to drink. It has so much stuff. Astragalus, which is a really good adaptogen,
Mhm.
which helps your cortisol levels come to homeostasis. Like, you know, instead of too high or too low,
Mhm.
helps you come right there in the middle.
I
Let's
mean, just
see.
some wonderful ways for people to tune into their body, to tune into what
Right.
they're putting in their body,
Yes.
based on what they need and, based on herbals, based on
Right.
what's grown on the land and amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I just want to be at the point where eventually, basically anything on the shelf that they can go to the grocery store to get like Pepto-Bismol or
Mhm.
like any Western kind of medicine, I want them to be able to have access to that in my shop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like for
Mhm.
every remedy, it's gonna take me time, but
I was gonna say, well, that's a lofty goal, but
that's
yeah,
my goal.
but I mean, there's so much wisdom from Eastern medicine as well as Western,
Right,
and there's so much that we can take,
right,
from different philosophies and different ways of being.
right.
So, are you loving what you're doing?
I absolutely love it. The only thing I don't love is I really need to I just hired somebody to come help me work like 3 hours a week, stamping my boxes and putting my boxes like, that's the stuff I don't love.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
It's just so time consuming. So I think my vision and my goal
Hmm.
for my business for Michelle's Well is to get to the point where I have an operation, like a full staff, like
Hmm.
people building my boxes, filling the boxes, filling the tea bags, and I just come in and make the tea, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
That's my end goal so that I can be home with my babies when I eventually someday have children.
That's awesome. And did I
Yeah.
see you have a subscription box for people too?
I do, yeah. They can do a subscription box if they want.
Let's also try some different ones and kind of go based on your recommendations.
Right, right.
That's awesome. Well, I am so thankful that you were willing to do this. The time just like flew by. I learned some things that I
Oh,
didn't know as well. I'm just so honored that you'd be willing to come and just talk a little bit about your journey and about your products. And I'm
I'm
just
honored.
thankful. Oh, well,
Thank you for
good.
having me. Like I literally I'm just this is so fun to be able to share my
Yeah.
story. Thank you for hearing my story. I know it's not a super popular one, but
I think it's so important. I mean, I think it's so important your story is exactly what the podcast is about. We all have a calling. We all have
yeah.
a life that we need to create for ourselves. And sometimes it's different than
Right.
what we're taught or what other people think it should be. I think for me, if we can move out of the judgment of other people and,
Right.
maybe some of your choices might not be something I would choose, but that's okay. I mean,
Right.
that's actually really good. And we can learn from each other and we can love
Right.
each other and we can coexist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And understand and learn and respect each other.
exactly. And so
Right.
I'm just really
Oh,
thankful that you were willing to do this. So one last time, where can people find you?
MichelleIswell.org.
Hmm. Okay.
Michelle with two L's. And also on Instagram, it's Michelle.is.well.
Okay.
But I wanted to say too, I just forgot to mention, I still haven't drank booze.
Ah, wow. Yep.
So we're 3.5 years later, and I'm
Hmm.
freaking loving it. Absolutely thriving. I couldn't imagine my life with booze again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be a whole nother episode on the podcast.
Right, right.
For sure, for sure. Oh, well, thank you so much. I will link
Thank
all
you,
of your
Beth.
information on my social media as well as the website. And I'm sure we will be talking more.
Thank you, friend. I so appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. I think what you're doing is just so beautiful,
Oh,
so needed in this world. Thank you for being a light.
thank you. And for all the listeners out there, keep on being authentic and brave.